me say a special good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9. Those of you viewing GBN TV, good morning. Welcome to The Point. Today, Monday, the 4th day of November, the start of a new month. And happy to be back inside the studios this morning here at GBN. Let me say good morning to Mr. McIntyre. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah.
Seemed like a real long time.
It seemed like a long time, but for you, 2 weeks seem to have been too short for your vacation. Based on your expressions.
As I mentioned a while ago, it was like a workation, you know.
Yeah.
It was not really a vacation. You know, you just find a whole lot of things to do because you feel when you have that extra time and you do a whole lot. So it was more of a work nature more than a vacation, I would say.
Yeah, but work outside of real work does be a different kind of
It's
work.
a different kind of work.
It gives you a different feeling,
you totally do understand what I'm talking about right now.
I do understand.
So how is everything, man?
I am good, I'm fine, I'm blessed, and thankful and very grateful for it as well. And yeah, doing well over the last couple of days and so on. As a matter of fact, the last 2 weeks since we've not met, you know, there's a few things that has happened. I think this morning we're going to do our usual...
I want to bring me up to speed. I need to get up to speed. I didn't get the opportunity to view the shows for the last 2 weeks.
GT, when you go off, man, you go back into work and you tune us out.
Yeah, I didn't get the opportunity to view the last two shows for, you understand. You know, sometimes you just want that that distraction. You
need to do it.
You just cut it off. You didn't want that distraction, but it was necessary. I should have, but...
No, but the essence of vacation was designed to give you the time down, to recharge, to reboot, to recalibrate into a different atmosphere. And that is why the work program and by extension the labor unit has designed that, because you understand the psychological, psychosocial impacts that people can have if you stay within that environment for extended periods of time. You need to have that break, even if you're working, but it's a different kind. Your body needs that diversity to be able to adjust and to balance itself. That's what your body. If you just
you need that break, as it was. You just need that break to kind
so
of
even if you tune
yourself.
out, and that is why I personally, through my own experience, because I used to do it when I was much younger, take the workload back home.
Yeah,
you don't do that. You try to piece yourself into working within the work environment, and when you get out of the work environment, you give yourself a different space. People want to be off the job and still on the job. You will not survive very long. And when you get your vacation, is to be on vacation of the job. And this is why bosses, supervisors, and managers should also understand that when you get your time out, please do not disturb.
Yeah.
Don't
call
come
the employee.
It is really prepare the system around me for going. Work with me and the person who is going to be in my space for the time I'm out. Get the information related to what I'm doing and so forth, and what I'm leaving behind, so that you don't have to disturb me when I'm off. So you should have that reasoning as a manager, as a boss yourself, to be able to say, my staff is off. I would give him or her the space.
So whoever is taking up the mantle after that individual should be just able to follow through smoothly.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
So I'm happy that you did that.
Yeah.
Within the last couple of weeks, we focused a bit on the safety issues, basically. We came out of the natural hazards. We do a balance.
Yes.
And we started it before you left, the whole issue of road safety.
Yes, we did.
We did emphasize a lot more on it because of the accidents that we're seeing and the reasons behind some of them. We decided to ensure that we focus on that. And we also saw the police following through on some of the things that we were speaking on in terms of the use of pedestrian crossings and all of that, zebra crossings. And they were also placing their focus not just on the drivers, but they are placing heavy focus on pedestrians themselves, because as pedestrians, you have a responsibility for your own safety. So I like the angle that the RGPF did. They give and put the onus on pedestrians to say that, listen, your life is also important. If somebody isn't looking out for it for you, you need to look out for it for yourself.
For yourself also. So true.
And then we had the issues of accidents, and by, I guess, divine intuition, we chose to speak on speeding. And just the weekend we decided to speak on speeding. There was a death that was attributed to speeding. Well, the police report and everything else indicate that person was beyond the speed limit. Right. So we focused on that, which we're going to follow through in today's program. Because we had a lot of interest from callers, a lot of inputs, very good input from callers. We want them to continue to do that. And we focused on why speed, the reason why people speed, the disadvantage of speeding, and maybe some advantage of that too. And then we focus, coming to the end, we started a few points on how to not speed. Yeah. Pace yourself in certain ways. But the few events that happened in between, there was a death by stabbing in St. Andrew area.
Yes, there's been a couple of that happening.
A couple of that happening.
Over the last couple of days.
And that is unfortunate. It is also saying that our intervention, community-wise and otherwise, some of the things, it seems as though it falls on deaf ear, or maybe we're not consistent enough in keeping the message more frequent.
Or is it the communities that these incidents are occurring in? Is it that they tune off to conversation of this nature? Or the individuals, I would say. Is it that they are tuned off to the conversation of that level? Because we see sometimes the younger folks are the ones that are involved in it.
Right.
That's at a very high percentage.
Right.
And the kind of distractions that they do have these days. You understand?
Yes.
They very rarely pay attention to, conversation of this nature.
Right.
That's not in their interest.
Right.
The music type they listen to influence them, in the way that causes them to behave in the manner even the whatever they view on television and so forth, and via social media and stuff, the influence that they get.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So why are we continuing to see what could be really be done? Not continue to see, but what could really be done to have a different perspective in terms of getting that message across? That's not who we are as Grenadians.
No, it is.
It's a culture that has just kind of drafted itself for some reason. I would never say there was never violent tendencies happening in Grenada over the years. There has been,
right.
But it has gotten to a level that it's not the norm.
Right.
If you understand where I'm coming from, it's just not the norm.
So we mentioned one time on our program, and thank you for leading into that direction. We mentioned that sometimes we adopt certain names, styles, and maybe pull some culture from other places in the world, and we do the copycat sort of things. Yeah. I remember speaking about the Bronx in the United States has a kind of a connotation to it.
Yeah.
Baghdad has one to it. Beirut has another one to it. There are a couple of them that we tend to allow to slip into our society, and the ghetto and these stuff. Those are really not homegrown names.
Okay.
And they do have some negative connotations with them. And we allow them to really make their place into our society. And so the mind has a way of functioning based on repetition of words and action, and it gets you into that kind of a mood. And when people start speaking about Baghdad and these kind of places and Beirut and so on, this is warring and those kind of thing. And I mentioned it before, and I am hoping that we could discourage that, and I'm hoping that our authority too, when these kinds of names come up for our communities, that we shoot them down.
Yeah.
And try to think. I've seen them doing some streets and community naming and so on. That's a really plus for us. And we should do more of that, captivate that, and start naming more our communities after our prominent leaders and activities and so on in particular areas that's kind of unique to the area. Kind of put these up, on boards, make it very conspicuous, make it attractive, make it pretty, that people want to hang out there and look at it. I traveled on the islands a couple, and I looked at Petit Martinique, and I saw they had one of these walls where they said something about our culture. Yeah. And on that wall, they painted the things that they do that's unique to Petit Martinique. And I was drawn to it. Even if I understood and I knew what they were doing, I was drawn to it. So it gave me a feel and a greater understanding of the people of that area who live there. We can do that in various communities, because as small as it is, you may be surprised. We do have different accents in different parts of Grenada.
Yes.
We do. And we do have some that are unique, very unique to the areas in Grenada where we live. Yeah. So we're saying that if we can transform these things, those positive things that we do. I remember one time we had some issues in the Moncton area. And the Moncton people are not bad. And when we did, I worked with Dr. Chaitan and ACP Charles and the people from St. Andrew. we walked in that community a bit and did a survey and found that there were some very prominent people from the mountain area that people were stigmatizing as a haunted area. They're just chopping and violent and all that, and they're really not the kinds of people. And so what was encouraged was that you do a billboard. I know we did a board, and you highlighted some of the prominent people that made contributions. So as you mentioned the violence and whether people are turning away, I think we are allowing the system to take more of the individuals than the individuals taking care of themselves and the society taking care and creating that space for them to function differently. So the guys who have become violent, how often are they exposed to people who will speak to them and mentor them? How well are we saying, you know what, there is what people call the bad man or the haunted man in this community. Let's not speak about him very much.
But I doesn't continue you. But that's why I fought Paddling. That's why we have lost the leadership people with leadership qualities in communities now.
Right.
We most time there's a particular individual or individuals within communities who will offer that leadership, that mentor of leadership, and we don't see that happening much in communities as they used to.
Right.
Mr. This or Mr. That was somebody who have a particular stature in this community. He may not be a rich individual on the sort, but something about him led you to want to follow the path that this individual is going through. And we don't see that much happening in most communities as they used to.
Great. And then it also adds to the community activities and the lifestyle that we promote. We can go on with this conversation. Because you remember we spoke about these little community cooks.
Yeah.
The little maroon community engagement, cutting the sugar cane with people coming with thing and helping
that neighbor has a house that wants some repairs this weekend, and the female just go there and help out that neighbor and stuff.
Right. I remember pitching the marbles and so on, had a community thing about it. Communities and little yard going against the other yard, pitching marbles and
the hill, playing down the hill,
playing the moral and the hopscotch and the rounders and all that. Those kind of community engagement really kept people active. And so when you are engaged with group activities, you get to understand each other a bit more. So you understand that this person is edgy or touchy or thin skin in that area. You don't want to really. But by him moving around...
You don't want to take this marbles, because he's going to get upset.
That's right. But you find a way of dealing with him.
Exactly.
And so you understand.
I just wouldn't take his marbles.
That's correct. The man, people say, he's stupid already, he's short-tempered, he's aggressive, he's hasty. You understand what these people... And you find ways of dealing with them. But if you're not mixing that much, you don't understand this person. And so the first time you interact with that person could be your last time. Because that person could be so aggressive, you didn't understand that side of him. And you get to that side and he pulled something and he stabbed, he made a few slashes.
And that's it. You could lose your life, or you just decide, I'm going to cut that individual. And sometimes this individual has good tendencies about themselves,
Right.
But sometimes the negative aspects of them cannot make more presence.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
I know of an individual who has to be temperamented for some reason or the other. He always upset.
Right.
And once got into a conversation with him, and I realized the individual has really good qualities about him also.
Of course.
But just that he presents that way about him so outstanding.
Right.
You understand? The vex and the violence. But when you get them in that somber mood, you realize he possesses a level of intelligence. Some folks would say individuals who behave like that, they are less intelligent. That's for some reason they would say how we talk
less
about
intelligent based on what you perceive.
Exactly.
In academics and otherwise, but that person could be very skilled.
Exactly. But academically, he was at that level, just in terms of having the conversation with him.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
But just how he presented the violent nature of himself.
Yeah.
That was the front that he presented more than individuals knowing that. And sometimes folks would never know that he had that particular ability because you never saw that part, or you never had the conversation with him to know that he has that part of him.
Right, good. So GT, I know sometimes you have a way, a point at which you normally break for...
So we take...
I didn't really want you to do it immediately, but if you want to, because I want you to expand on it, because
go right ahead.
There's an angle, you seem to have led me into a point where it could be an intervention that could have an impact on people, because as we spoke about the violence and how it fan out, the psychosocial intervention, having the counselors, and mentioning counselors again, I want to say pleasant good morning to the Ministry of Social Development and so forth. I saw some of the councillors on the island of Petit Martinique, and we understand the post-traumatic situation that can occur when you have a situation. And they being on the ground is a good sign. But here what? Recently, probably as yesterday, I was interacting with a lady and her son. And it was 3 of them that lived together. And one of the young men was stabbed. Luckily, it was not fatal, but he became immobile. He's probably, he can't walk.
Okay.
And so forth. He lost some of his movement and other things from him. And the younger child is traumatized with the situation. The aunt of that child is also very traumatized. And hear what? I inquired of her, because I saw her in a particular mode and I spoke to her. I said, have you ever had any form of counseling? Has anyone spoken to you? She said no. She told me that the child sometime, because of what he went through and understood what happened to his relative, he too is traumatized with similar circumstance, things that the child like that this young person used to be a part of. When the occasion rise, they both go into that mode and it affects them. She was in tears. The young man that I saw, he said was maybe about 8 or 9 years. And he too the tears was just held back, but his face was drawn. And she said to me, in school sometimes he goes into that mode and he goes crying. And sometimes the children jeer at him. They don't understand what he's going through. And it really sunk deep. I was able to speak to this lady, encourage her, and she said, when I get into this environment, I hear particular music, I see particular activity, it brings back that feeling of what we lost because of the stabbing incidents, and now because this guy is crippled. And now she's left without anyone to help her come through this socially or psychologically and otherwise. And the young man is in school. I need to be able to find out the school he's in and everything, and so I can pass it on so that they would know that he would need some help and she would need continuous help, because what we can have 2 other persons that we can lose in society by some means. God forbid that happened. She would have taken the little tip that I may have given to her, and other people would help her to find that there's reason to find reason to be up. And rather than going back, and I give her my own experiences and how I walked through them and whatnot. And so I think what you said, or where you led the conversation, is really, really, because somebody hearing this may probably know who I'm speaking about. I mean, know other people in the community where tragic things have happened. And in their own workplace, at school, children and adults may be reacting in certain ways, and maybe the teacher, maybe the boss or the other staff members are not quite aware of some of the signs or the symptoms that these people exhibit and what they're going through. And so we made the point before that we need social intervention or psychosocial intervention should be at a hand touch. And maybe numbers and places should be advertised more. You need counseling, you need help that doesn't really have a cost, because some people will stay away because they have to pay for it. But if you say that psychosocial help or counseling, even if people may not understand what psychosocial help mean, you break it down for them and said, just to be able to speak to you to help you deal with a situation after you had a bad situation that occurred. So that is speaking about debriefing after a traumatic situation.
Oh, Drew, great. We do for a break, Mr. McIntyre. Let's take it down now. When we come back, we're getting to our main conversation for the morning, which is, of course, speeding on our nation's roads. And let's see how we can get that conversation rolling when we come back. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We come
Select.
Tourism is me, tourism is you, tourism is everybody, and tourism connects us all.
Did you know that tourism generates revenue and foreign exchange earnings?
Did you know it stimulates infrastructural development and facilitates cultural exchange among people?
You must know tourism is linked to all industries,
from agriculture to construction.
So support the industry today and be welcoming to all our visitors.
Tourism is my business. Tourism is your business. Tourism is our business. listen one and all. Tourism connects us all.
A message from the Ministry of Tourism
And the Grenada Tourism Authority.
Hello, everybody. My name is Renee Goodwin, and I am the marketing manager here at True Blue Bay Resort. And I am so excited to invite you all to join us every Thursday on GBN, starting from November 7th, as we count down to the holiday season, right here at True Blue Bay Resort, Grenada's best family-friendly resort for visitors and locals.
Welcome back once again to The Point, Classic Radio GBN TV. It's G2 Radio this morning. I'm your host together with Mr. Sylvan McIntyre here, folks. And our conversation this morning, as Mr. Macri, in our first segment, he said that we're going to be, of course, going back into a conversation that started last week in terms of speeding.
Yeah.
And the reason we be talking about that, I would, in my circumstances with you now, I would say is that why do individuals think it's necessary? Drivers on the nation's road. No, we referencing Grenada and our road conditions that we have here. Why do you think we need to speed, knowing the condition that prevails before us?
Right.
You know, we're not talking about countries that has the conditions available, the proper roads and everything. We know that every couple of seconds we drive on the road, there's a corner to turn or something that could impede our driving. You understand?
Right.
Why do you think folks that are on Grenada's road think it's necessary to speed, even at the level that I know it could become uncontrollable for them at times?
No. So here what? Very early we're going to invite our followers to be able to chime in on this. Mm-hmm. The question you asked me, we're going to ask them that.
Yeah.
And we're going to also ask them to give us some suggestion as to how they think, apart from what we're going to say, as to how they think people can reduce and not speed. So there are a number of reasons why people speed. And not just people. We have to break it down, classified by age group as well. Mm-hmm. So in general, people speed because they think that speeding will take them to where they want to the destination quicker.
Yeah. That's we would say maybe that could be the general idea for speeding.
Yes. But you do not do the same thing all the time and expect a different result. Mm. And you cannot leave late and expect to arrive early. So here what? We said the flip side of this has to do a lot with a few things. The planning process in your destination, when it starts, how it starts, where you intend to go, what you intend to take there, and how long it will take you to get there. Mm. We also mentioned, we want to reiterate, you have to also assess the volume and the flow of traffic at particular streets and particular time. And if you look at it in how rapid our vehicles are increasing on our roads, you'd realize with more vehicles, it takes you a longer period
to point B these days.
Because you could have left where you live one time, and you know for sure for now, when you're leaving home GT, you have to think about the best route to get to where you want to go.
You know, there was one time I could have left River Road, where I live, and get to Point Celine in 15 minutes.
Yeah, easy.
15 minutes. And someone would have called me and said, I'm on the airport.
Yeah.
And I would 15 minutes I could have gotten there without going at any rapid speed. Yes. I'm talking about driving within the speed limits. I could have gotten there in 15 minutes. You can't think about that. No.
Someone could call and say the plane has landed, I'm going to go through immigration and in River Road, and I said, okay, without any pressure, I'll meet you.
Yeah.
And a couple minutes you would have gone easy.
Yes.
How much time would it take you now?
We're talking 45 minutes. And more, depending on the conditions and the time.
Okay, good. So now that you do that as an individual, having that situation, what do you do?
You will know, get pre-information,
Right.
especially from the individual who's coming. I'm going to be landing at 2. So you know if this somebody landed, you should be leaving home at least by 1:30.
Okay, great. So so the reason why I ask you that, I want to put our followers and listeners and viewers into a pattern that because we do not plan properly, we do not become systematic, we become anxious to get things done at the time we expect it to have been done when we did not plan to achieve it within that given time.
Yeah.
So if we did not plan the night before or the time before or moments before, don't try to make it up. And it will drive you and make you feel, well, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
When you prepare yourself for an exam or for anything, your whole mindset feels different.
Yeah.
When you are ready for your journey, like I mentioned, like even last week, that parents sending their children off to school or leaving for school and so on, the preparedness process does not start on the morning when you wake them up. You can do that the week in advance. You're preparing for the week.
Yeah.
So preparing the uniforms and clothes and so on, that you have it done at a particular time, they press. So in the morning, you're not rushing every morning to press piece of clothes. The meals that you're going to prepare for them, you figure out down the road. If they're not going to be buying food at school, which I would discourage, you say what you would want them to have and you ensure that that is there, it's packaged and you're ready to do it. And the books and whatever else that they have to, you understand, and channel them into doing it themselves. So one of the things that we do not do well, and we're trying to do now, is break patterns of tradition.
Yeah.
And we have to break those kind of a cycle of we're not generating the process. So because we have not taken the time to plan properly, people find themselves speeding. And we go now to the next level. On the average responsible family, householder, the parent, the worker, and so forth, getting into an organized mood, that's what we want to do. But let us look at the younger person who thinks, well, I have to blow it out. And because that car or that vehicle has some speed, I can clear the road.
And there are individuals who like that particular challenge, as you would say.
They like the challenge.
They like the challenge.
So I want to blow. So I gonna do this, and they would set themselves a personal challenge. I can make it to that next point in 10 minutes.
Before we continue, let's grab a caller before we continue the conversation. Caller, good morning, and you're welcome. Let's hear from you.
Yes, good morning, and thanks for having me. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre and GT. Thank you for bringing up the point about preparation. I think we all, including myself, have a lot to learn about that. One thing I've noticed, and sometimes it happens especially on holidays, I should say, is that sometimes people speed because they think it's cute, especially some of the young people, and they do joyriding, and they're speeding to go nowhere. It's a holiday, they're not going to work and so on. They may just be going on the beach, or they may just be going and hang out. And I think one of the things that can help, especially as Mr. GT pointed out about the bends, the corners and so on in our road, is to have sign like they will have in some place in North America saying that what the speed limit should be when it's approaching a corner and so on. So in addition to the general speed limit, if you're coming up to a sharp corner, there will be a sign saying, for example, 20 miles an hour and so on. So it may or may not help, but I think the more you have appropriate signage, that will encourage people to comply. The other thing is we have the misconception with regard to being on the phone, and I know we're talking about speeding, but that is related to that also, because when you're on the phone, your perception of what's going on is less. Your reaction time is less, and then your total braking distance now becomes longer, so you're more likely to have a crash. And we, over the years, have telephone and so on have evolved to the point that we have hands-free. And we think because hands-free is quote-unquote safer than holding the phone in your hand. That is safe to be having to be on a conversation while you're driving because it's hands-free. And studies have shown, the National Safety Council of the United States have shown that we actually have, in some cases, more accidents because the concept here is that you're distracted speaking with your friend. Hey, what you doing this weekend? It's one thing if you're a doctor, a policeman, or in security, and you're driving and you got a call from the hospital from a patient, and so it's another thing when you just you're not just having this kind of conversation on the phone while you're driving, going fast. Hey, what you doing this weekend? And gossiping and stuff like that. So I think we need to know it's just because it's hands-free does not mean it's safe. And when you're on the phone with a conversation and you're going and you're driving fast, the two combined makes it a deadly combination. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And the caller did make some interesting points there.
Yes.
Especially the one where it relates to speeding because, well, you think you can go faster because you don't have that phone in your ear anymore. Yes. So you think, well, I have the notion, no, let me drive faster, and you think you may maneuver. But supposedly the quality, the type of conversation you're having while you're driving, that is the way the distraction comes in.
Good. And that's the point's well made. I don't even want to elaborate on it too much because it's well made. Yeah. The other point I want to make here, why people. So when we make the points, we'll add what people need to do about them to correct it as well. Domestic situation, violent situation, where there are unsettled disputes between couples or families, and people get on the road, and the vehicle pays for it. The accelerator pays for it. So somebody would get off, slam the door, jump into the car, start it off, and speed off. And I've known of people that last slamming and speeding off was the last. Yeah. Because that issue wasn't settled and they thought that, listen, get into the vehicle, and sometimes by just sheer reaction, your foot just go down, you lose your whole sense of thinking and everything else. So here what? If you think there is an unsettled issue, do not take it to the vehicle. Calm yourself down, get to the transport, focus on what is before you, because it will not just be your life, it will be somebody else's. So speeding there, in this case, someone is speeding not to get to a destination, but they're just speeding without no sense of speeding because that's a reaction to a situation. Yeah. And when you react those kind of spontaneous ways negatively to a situation, you end up having negative consequences for yourself and for others. Yeah. So before you get into that vehicle, if you know that you have something that disturbed you, you are angry about it, find a way, hold yourself back, be late for your activity or your event, try to settle that before getting into the vehicle. Somewhere,
so get some resolution to it. It may be minimal, or get a high percentage of it off as much as possible, and then you go on your journey.
You may not necessarily get it resolved.
100%. Because that's what I'm saying. I'm in the highest percentage you can. Yes. In terms of it, even though you solve it 50%, it takes a little bit off of you that rage or that vexation that you probably had.
And no disregard or disrespect to women, but women like to hold a good argument, a good conversation,
especially when you're driving. Eh?
Oh, well, I don't. They need you to. Women, they need you to speak to them. They need you to give them the attention. And if you go mute, you don't speak, you don't react, you flare them up.
And it always happens in the car for some reason or the other too. I mean,
well, the cars are close space. You can't escape
from experience. You always want to get into or bring up something of a nature while you're driving.
When you're in the car, you are enclosed, you are challenged, so they realize you're cornered. You don't have fast to go. So they use the opportunity. Yes, now you have to resist it. So the point I'm making here, there might be differences that you're trying to settle.
Yeah, and you think, no, let me drive a little faster to get to where we need to go faster.
To drop off? Or for you to get off. That would not solve the problem. So what you want to do is that if the issue is unresolved, try to find a middle ground. Honey, babe, could we speak about this? Could we deal with this later on? Yeah. This is not the right time. And sometimes you would get them to probably appease or break it down, or they may get you.
Yeah.
Because you may be the aggressor. You may be the person on the high part. Unfortunately, there are some men who really do that, but on average, the women won't do it. I've been born. So the point is, if you did not get it, don't try to walk to settle it, because it may take you days or weeks to get it done. Find a neutral ground, or finding that way to just pacify or appease it for a bit while it gets on the road, so that you are in a better sense of control of what you do. So I'm hoping that somebody's really taking in that small bit.
Yeah,
that there will be unresolved issues. Do not try in a rush, because the rush that you're having, they may move from your head and it goes all the way down to the pedal.
Yeah. And then that's when the loss of controls comes to play in there now.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing someone is sending a message via WhatsApp, and they're saying, now headphones and Bluetooth is readily available, so drivers can have no cost to hold their phones in their hand while driving.
Okay.
But it all goes back to what the previous caller mentioned. It's hands-free.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean necessarily that you will have a sense of control, because you're no longer, not having the actual phone device in your ear and having to use one hand and stuff like that. You understand?
We need more family members, and we need more workplaces to have developmental sessions. And having said so, too often people focus maybe on the academics and making out the money, the finances, without touching the issue of developmental processes. I know there were 2 business entities who had asked me to come in to speak to the staff in terms of development and road safety, etc. And I really honored that point of looking after their staff, because they may not have had that conversation with anybody else. But if you bring it into the work environment, if you are able, as a work entity, a professional institution, allocate a particular time of the year, a month, where you can have professional developmental sessions and deal with things like this, tell people how to handle it, because people may have been moving for years on the notion that if you have hands-free, you have Bluetooth and so on, it is okay to just have the conversation that we would normally have. But the conversation that one should be having should be just short conversation to the point on an issue that cannot be dealt with at another time, basically. So you want to be dealing with an issue that has to be dealt now with, you focus on it quickly. And still the better thing to do might be, even if you have hands-free, to get off the regular traffic and deal with the situation rather, because we've seen people lost control. You get so engrossed in that conversation, and as the caller said, it may not even necessarily be an idle conversation. No. It may be a professional thing within your line of responsibility, but you get so focused on it, and you also forgot that your foot is on that pedal all the way down there, or you might be driving this other lane, or you might be eating over on somebody's side too much and end up in an accident.
You may not hear someone is tooting their horn behind you, or you may not pay attention that someone is braking at the time, or the brake pedal is on their brakes light, because the conversation is that you're having.
Yes.
We drew for a break, Mr. Wakwika. I want us to get a little bit in terms of how could we stop this? What can an individual do in terms of stopping what they're doing?
Yeah.
And gaining control over what the speed that they're going at when we come back in the next segment.
And then we're going to conclude, make sure we tell them about penalties, right?
Yeah, and we have to talk about penalties. And I think it's a critical thing there, penalties, and I think a lot of folks get away with it because there's not much penalties that's for speeding. Even though there is, you could get a ticket, but one of the major penalties that could come about, you could lose your life, right?
Oh, yeah.
You could lose your life. It's a form of a penalty some way or the other. Let's take a break. We're coming right back, folks. Don't touch your dial.
In Grenada,
Grenada, get ready to celebrate the magic of the season with Christmas with GBN. Starting November 4th, join us weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBN Television, K105 and Hot 98. Monday kicks off with traditional stories and wellness, featuring a storytelling session with Labukan Creative Center, giveaways, nutrition tips, and live calls to share your holiday wishes. On Tuesday, brings Craft Day with live and pre-recorded workshops guided by local artisans. Join us for more giveaways and connect through live calls. Wednesday features an outdoor production showcase, giving local sponsors a chance to shine from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. On Thursday, it highlights a local cuisine showcase at True Blue Bay Resort. And on Friday, it wraps up the week with live entertainment in our studio, showcasing local artists and more opportunities for live calls. Don't miss out on the joy and togetherness this holiday season. Celebrate with us on Christmas with GBN.
Hi, we're here at Answer Coating Grenada Limited, a proud sponsor of Christmas with GBN. And this year, we're giving up to 40% off various items.
And customers actually have the opportunity to win up to $1,000 cash. So we encourage you to stay tuned to Christmas with GBN and look out for all other in-store promotions and product information.
And don't forget, this December, a night of shopping with Answer Coatings.
Proud sponsors of Christmas with GBN includes Ace Hardware, Hubbard's, Flow, Grenada Duty Free, and Answer Coatings.
Anyway, let me say good morning and welcome back once again. It's To The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. Mr. McIntyre, welcome back.
Yes.
I want us to continue on in terms of what I mentioned when we go for the break, in terms of how can we advise an individual to stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
Take some time. You know, at 1 second before you touch that pedal can make a whole difference.
Big difference.
A big difference.
Right.
What advice you'd like to throw to an individual in terms of stop what you're doing?
There are a few of them we started trailing on, and there's one that hinges on the last point that we were making in terms of ensuring that issues come to a departing point to ensure there is safety in it before you get into the vehicle. There's a common thing that we refer to as tabanka. You heard about tabanka before?
I heard the word.
Right. So
never had the experience, but
you don't need to try to get it either. I'll just try it either.
All right, let's not divert.
We can't go there at all. But it's a local word.
Yeah.
But it's a local word that is used to cover domestic and relational stress.
Yes.
And when people have differences and so on in their relationship, as we mentioned before, we take it out on other things.
Yeah.
And I remember one time having to deal with a situation where a guy said he wanted to kill himself.
Yeah.
And he put me to work on him because he ran across the street. He told him he's going to kill himself. Ran across the street. There was this innocent lady who was driving her Jeep down the street. Ran across the road just as she was driving. The Jeep struck him. He went up into the air, came back, fell, split, had a huge laceration on the back of his head. And I had to work on him and get him to seek further medical help and all of that. Now, that is a pedestrian.
Yeah.
But there are people who also feel that they want to end it or they want to not continue with the situation beyond a particular time. So the point is, if you have a situation, whether it is a local palanx, it's a banker, you have an issue that is unresolved, get to the middle point of it where there's a settlement before venturing out.
Yeah.
Agree to have what you call, let's have a break in transmission.
Yeah.
Let's return to get a word from the sponsors. And so we will do this in a subsequent program because what we're doing here will jeopardize the lives of the children and lives of other vehicle users.
But if I could chime in on you here, maybe I'm having a different opinion in terms of what you're saying, and I understand the point that you're making. But if an individual decides they want to end their life and decides to run across the road, but if a driver is driving at the appropriate speed, it wouldn't hinder that, right?
It would.
it wouldn't, the impact would not be as great if an individual is driving at the appropriate speed. Because we're talking speed. Our conversation is based on speed, right?
Yes.
So if I'm supposed to be driving at 5 miles, 15 or 20 miles per hour,
correct,
and then individuals, usually a 20 mile per hour accident would not cause a great impact on an individual who decides, well, I want to end my life because you said the tamank I'm having, so I'm going to run across the road.
Yes.
20 mile per hour. But supposedly you're crossing the road and somebody's going 50 miles, which is beyond the speed limits in Grenada. Because we talk in Grenada traffic, right? Traffic and how people drive in Grenada, right? Countries where there are speed limits of up to 65 miles per hour.
Yes.
But Grenada, the maximum we could go at is about 40, I think. 40, 45. You know, I think it's 40 maximum. So, so if someone in Grenada is driving at that particular speed, knowing the road conditions that we have, if individuals are driving at that, it is unlikely someone having an impact with your vehicle will get to the point where it would be that bad. If you understand where I'm coming from.
Yes. So you make absolute good sense, and in terms of the amount of speed that one would be involved in a particular time, it will lessen the severity of the impact that they would have, obviously. So that is one reason why you should not speed. So whether you created it or not, somebody created the occasion for that to happen. If you abide by the speed limit, you lessen the impact. Last week, we had a caller who called in, and he supported us in terms of saying that we should have the speed limit being varied across different parts of the island, and there should be a review now as to whether in some parts we need to increase the speed limit and decrease it in other areas.
I would agree with it.
And I definitely think that we need to be able to look at it and have those signs written up a bit more. And in addition to having the signs written up a bit more, we need to have the information relative to speeding more prominent. People listen to it, they hear it, it is more accessible. And the other thing we also mentioned is whether or not we are doing 40 miles per hour as maximum, or whether we're doing 40 kilometers per hour. We've seen some of the road signs, we can take pictures of them along.
There were some that are saying kilometers per hour.
And some not saying anything at all.
And just some that's 40. Jim just said 40. You understand?
40 and 35.
40 and 35.
And you'd wonder, where should we put those signs? Whether we should be more consistent, which we agree on, and whether we should consider having those speed limits spread in different parts of the country. We also said that people tend to believe the tongue of St. George, and St. George is the only place where things should be regulated, which is totally untrue. As we look at the speeding conditions and how we can actually stop it, one, we should be knowledgeable of what the law says about speeding and the penalties associated. It gives you good reason to stop. That is one of it. Another reason would be to plan, as we mentioned before, properly, so that you know that you have to do something. That will help you to stop. The other condition is your vehicle. Know your vehicle inside out. The maintenance process on the vehicle, the difficulty and the challenge that the vehicle may have, whether it is consistent, whether the emission and transmission is capable of taking the load or the speed at a particular time that is required, and it is roadworthy up to that point. It will tell you then, give you an idea then, that listen, if I have to do that distance at that time, that vehicle is not capable of doing that. I should not be pushing it beyond that.
Especially if someone gives you a vehicle and a first-time use of the vehicle, you may not understand the severity or the pressure that you may have to apply to the braking system. I'm driving my vehicle every day, so I may understand the pressure that I may have to apply to my brake to get a stop sudden or slower stopping period. You understand?
Absolutely.
But you driving a vehicle, I get into your vehicle for the first time. It will take me a couple of minutes to get a gas of the feel, as you would say. So why would you just take a vehicle? You know, sometimes someone gives, hey, just go park my vehicle for me, and you see they sped off. Not understanding, well, I have to press Mr. McIntyre brakes a little harder than usual because you understand it because you've been driving it for years of time. You understand? So that's where understanding and reason why you should not speed, because you have to understand. Let's talk about penalties, Mr. McIntyre.
Before we go to the penalty, I just wanted to add just this last point, that people should know who they are and not try to be somebody else. If you're not a race car driver, you should not try to be.
Especially on the main roads.
On the road that is designed for just moving from point A to Z and not for competition.
Yeah.
And the other point that hinges onto that, the issue of the transitioning from copycats from one part of the world or one situation to the other is one of the things that people should not get tempted into doing.
Yeah.
As we roll into penalties, is there a need for us to review the penalty, or are people being penalized sufficiently?
Yeah.
And do we create the instrument to capture the violators that will bring them to the point of penalties?
Is a ticketing just is enough?
I don't think so. And the price one may pay. You have a maximum penalty of $1,000 for a speeding violation. Or you can get 12 months in prison. Or you can get 12 months in prison and a $1,000 fine. So you can get fined and confined. But as people listen across the board, they say, all that or so little, we believe that if we have a situation in Grenada where the number one cause of accidents, the more fatal accidents
speeding.
is speeding, shouldn't we try to increase the penalty for speeding?
It will be a deterioration. It will deteriorate deter you from wanting to speed.
Yes.
You understand?
And I think $1,000 last decade might have been a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah.
But right now, you have $1,000 and you take $50 from it, you have $950.
Yeah.
$950 not getting you very far. $1,000 is not very difficult to access.
Some would see that as a small penalty to pay, or a small amount to pay.
And the people who expose themselves into particular activities and who have access to funds, whether it is justified or otherwise, legal or otherwise, would find $1,000. I could pay that.
Yeah.
But we think if more people are penalized for driving beyond the speed limit, speeding, and they have to pay that 100,000. I mean, maybe should have $100,000.
No.
They have to pay $1,000 every time they violate. We probably would see that decrease.
And I think the introduction maybe of a point system on your license could be another way. The authorities could look into that. You have gotten, maybe you found speeding. First, second time you may got up the first time on a warning or second time on a warning, but every time you were caught, even though you were not charged to a point, but there's a point system on your license that may have caused, and if you get to that amount, you may not be able to drive for the next 5 years. We're not getting a little month or 2 months off from the driving for 5 years.
Yes,
minimum. You understand that you cannot be seen in a vehicle driving. I think that will.
I really think, I hope callers would support.
Well, we do have a caller. Let's
increase the penalties, because $1,000 or 12 months in prison or both. I don't know the last time. I can't recall. I could probably research it. The last time it was revised, it was revised recently. And if we really want to be serious in terms of ensuring that people don't speed that much, we have to do something different about it.
Okay. Let's see what this caller has to say. Caller, you're welcome and good morning.
Morning. I do agree that there is need for revision and increase with respect to the fines. They are severely outdated, and so as we progress, I think we need to actually adapt and see things moving in a much more harmonized way. But I also want, and speaking of harmony here, I wanted to ask you and Mr. McIntyre, as a conversation enhancer, if you don't also think that the terrible conditions of the road tempt one to speed, because you might leave home within reasonable time, you have people indiscriminately parking, you have indiscriminate drivers. For example, you have people who in their vehicle going to drop off the child at school, they're talking with them whole time coming down, and when they reach in front of the school, everybody wants to drop off in front of the school. It's like you want to stop the bus right in front of your home. And all of that can lead to congestion on the road. Likewise, slow movement. And I'm wondering if the terrible road condition is not also acutely responsible for persons being tempted to speed for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Well, I know that the condition of the road do have something with I don't know, with speeding, but your vehicle, because yesterday I was driving and it cost me just under $250 to repair a tire. Because I was driving my vehicle that has this low ply.
Yeah.
It went down into a hole by Close Rock. And I want people to listen to me. We need to fix. If you're driving towards St. David, if you stay on the left, you're going to go too much into the bush. If you try to escape that hole, you're going over into the right side of the road, you're veering into the other person oncoming. So my vehicle, the right front wheel just went right down into that hole, and there it went. I had to pull over to the Deco Service Center, get one of the tire places down the road to help me repair it, and it cost over $200.
So I'm trying to understand what the caller said. Speeding because there are a lot of holes in the road.
He said the road condition, because you're trying to cover more distance because you're expected to meet more obstruction along the way, and that may delay you. So you're trying in some way to gain more grounds before you meet those obstructions. Like, for instance, as he said, people just dropping off people and all that. If I try to move faster, when I get to that point, and they delay me, I will still have time to get to the next point.
So the obstruction maybe out of your way, so you move faster.
Yes. He's well, in my interpretation, and I would think that if you have the bad road, it will help you to drive slower.
Yeah.
But I see his anger of you wanting to cover grounds faster if you know the road condition isn't good, and if you know people are going to obstruct you on the way. Say, you know what, the road clear in front of me now.
Let me speed up.
Let me clear some miles before.
Well, if there's a clear path for some reason, I understand that you may want to drive faster because the road is clear. You understand, or you know that there's going to be an obstruction when I get just a little down the road. So let me see if I could get there faster, so there's less time of waiting. You understand? You have someone that's making a comment here via the WhatsApp. They say, "Good morning. Sleep deprivation is also a huge factor in speeding and distracting driving. Also, the next day, alcohol is also still high in the bloodstream." Someone is saying that.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the reasons we've had some situation where people get away with being too strong under the influence of alcohol is that sometimes the time that the cops do test them, the level of alcohol in the system has gone back.
Already depreciated a whole lot.
But that could still have some effect on their ability to move properly on the road.
We do have a caller. Caller, welcome. Good morning.
Yes, hi. Good morning. I'm very thrilled at the conversation that you guys are having there. But I just want to put forward that one of the issues that we do have with our road network in Grenada is not necessarily the network too, but in terms of the road markings. And I think this is a serious issue that needs to be put forward. I've actually tried to have an audience with the authorities in that regard. And I know that the marking of the demarcation line between the left side and the right side, that sometimes persons may have a difficulty into navigating exactly which side is mine as opposed to the other. And then you have the police now coming in when there's an accident to mark off and say that you are on that side and that side. It would be easier if there was a demarcation line. And so for the humps and so not being marked, because right now we know that what they're using do not last long and they do not readily get marked. So we have a problem with some persons traveling and they are unknown to a particular area, and these comes, or this as a surprise to them. And I would love for the authorities really to be into the forefront and to be proactive in terms of what they do in terms of addressing the issues of road safety, because we have to get this right, because we are putting forward tourism. We have people who are doing rentals. They are traveling on the island on their own, and they need to have something that is consistent internationally that will enable them to navigate through our nation's roads properly. So I'd like to hear the viewpoint of Mr. McIntyre and probably you as well in this regard. Cheers.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate it. Mr. Mac, we are a little bit out of time. But,
the gentleman is on point. It's actually something that we advocated for before. And I think, yes, as we go through across country, there should be markings, it puts the authority in a position where they can expand on some of the roads, because you may find that there are some places where it is narrow to get equal space for each driver.
You're not sure which side is yours anyway.
Exactly. But what it does as well, it's easier for the police officer to determine when the point of impact, who is veering to the other portion a bit more than the other if they mark it all the way across. But just before we depart, there are just two places of concern I want us to consider, and maybe we could look at it during the course of the week. One, there is the readjustment from the Maurice Bishop International Airport and that ring road that goes down to Sanders. When you get off the airport departure, they've done some change. But as you get off the airport and you're coming up to go over the monument, you're coming up and they create two lanes going up. The vehicles coming from over that going down towards Sanders, vehicles no longer could make a left
and come
to the airport. But vehicles coming from the airport, you're coming up, and if you get into that right lane, you have to go. You're creating an X across the traffic that is coming on that road that goes to the Sanders. So you have to go over to the right. You have to cross that road. You have to cross the traffic and get over to the right, even if it says stop before crossing.
I think there was an accident there recently for folks not understanding that what they have to do.
Another thing waiting to happen. That process needs to be revisited. And so maybe they should not have a lane where you enter that section on the right side of the road, but just allow you to come up onto the left, get far left and cross over so that you can get up. But creating two sections where you're going to be crossing over on the right, and when you get on the right, you have to go over and then cross over to the left. That is a
I certainly do understand, because both sides, so it leaves you as a driver to make a decision which could be fatal for the approach.
And how many persons going to see that stop sign and stop there? And even if you stop and you decide to move, somebody just veer over that hill with some speed and you get there, try to cross over to the other side. Trust me, that's another one waiting to happen.
That needs to be revisited in terms of how they make that decision. I have personally saw it, and just a couple of weeks ago there was an accident there because of the same issue.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Because the vehicle coming down over and someone wanted to cross.
And they need to adjust that really quickly.
Mr. Mac, thank you once again. Interesting conversation as always. I see the calls are coming in, but we have to take a wrap for today's program. I want to thank you a whole lot. Next week we probably could continue, maybe on the same level, or we're going to generate in the intro. We're going to generate something for next week. Thank you once again, sir.
You're welcome.
All right. Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. That's where we take a wrap for today's edition. Thanks all who contributed. Have yourself a good one, and goodbye.